Prepare to fight.
How's everybody doing? Good. I am Daniel Kayser, host and writer-producer for Gametrailers TV on Spike and Gametrailers.com, and also the founder of EpicBattleAxe.com and the Epic Battle Cry podcast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with all this. Yeah. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. We need heavy metal music in here. But we have... There you go. We have the rock stars of the first-person genre instead, which is great here with us to discuss first-person perspectives. Obviously, QuakeCon is a great time to do that with the first-person shooter genre being at the forefront here. But the purpose of this talk over the next little bit is kind of to discuss not only the evolution of the genre, but the evolution of the industry over the last couple of years and get some insight from the people here that obviously have a lot of experience and insight into that very topic. So, let's introduce them, shall we? Julian Roby is right next to me here, who is working on Dishonored, the newly announced game coming out from Bethesda. He's at Arcane Studios, and he's worked on BYOC and Arx Fatalis and Brink. And despite the name of his new game, we are honored to have you here.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Drew Murray, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped right over you. I saw Drew's beard, beautiful beard. I totally jumped right over Mccandlish, of course, from Respawn, who is here, who has worked on the Call of Duty franchise and has the interesting distinction of not being able to talk about his game today, which I'm a little upset about. Healy breaks all the exclusives on our show. I need an exclusive. Are you going to help me out? No. Damn. Chalk up one. Yeah. So next to him, obviously, is Drew Murray from Insomniac, who has lost a lot of sleep, I'm sure, over the Ratchet & Clank series and the Resistance franchise. Resistance 3 getting ready to ship next month, exclusively on the PlayStation 3, of course. So thanks so much for being here, man. We're looking forward to your insight. And I think you're actually the only one here who has finished your game. So everyone else actually should be working, and he's allowed to be here.
I know, I still feel like I look more tired than he's
Despite all of that. Tim Willits is down on the end there from id Software. Thanks so much for being here, Tim. Obviously, Tim has been involved with huge franchises like Quake and Doom, and now Tim and the team are getting ready to unleash their rage on the world. Come October, the cross-platform game, Rage, which has been the talk, obviously, of QuakeCon, and is looking awesome. So we're looking forward to getting some insight into not only that game, but your perspective, your unique perspective here.
Yes. I'm the in here because if my phone goes off and they find another bug,
Yeah.
I have to run.
I was talking to him before we met, and it was just literally check, you know. It's a hard job you got there, man. I don't envy you at this moment. So anyway, like I said, first-person perspectives is the name of this panel, and when they asked me to kind of come up with some topics for this, I wanted to do the exact thing that I mentioned, which is talk from their perspective about creating first-person games in this changing, shifting environment of gaming right now. So the first kind of topic is about hitting the mark and coming up with a concept for your game that you're able to know nails down a unique identity. The way we'll do this, guys, is just feel free to jump in if you've got something particularly pertinent to say. But in terms of hitting the mark and creating, obviously all these projects are unique, but how do you know when you've achieved something? You're working on a new IP here with Dishonored, and when you set out to do it, what are the things that you're looking to establish that are going to uniquely identify this game in a very competitive landscape?
Well, I think one of the things specifically on Dishonored that we wanted to achieve is make sure on the side of the visual that when you look at a screenshot, you can instantly say that this is Dishonored because it looks very different from anything else, whether it's for the way the characters are done, or if you look at the scenery, the way the scenery look, the architecture and everything. So that's the first part of the IPSM that we wanted to try to achieve to make it different. And I think the other thing too is specifically on the gameplay front, we wanted to make something that is first person, obviously, but something that's also different to play in first person because it's not only about shooting, but also about what the player can do in the game, or can interact with the environment, how the AIs react to the player. So it's really about trying to define a moment-to-moment experience that is different from what you can play on other games, and that's also trying to get the player involved in what he's doing as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Tim, when I spoke with you yesterday, you talked about nailing down a game like Rage. It has that id feel, as you described it to me. And you know, I think that establishing that as a company probably is a huge advantage to know what your games are supposed to feel like and what people expect out of your games when you're creating a new product, right?
Yes, and it's very difficult as you and I tried to put it down in words yesterday, what the id feel is. You know, that spirit of an id software game. You have your hands in the shotgun and you pull the trigger, and that feedback. It's just, it feels correct. And for us, you know, having, like, so Rage is very interesting because we're trying to appeal to people that believe in the id spirit and understand the id spirit, but we're also trying to branch out. So the second part of your question about expectations, and you know, we've had to climb over, you know, lots of hurdles in what people expect. You know, it's what's an id game? You need to have it needs to be a quarter shooter, and it needs to be kind of dark, you know, and all brown. But it's you know, so you have that group, and then you know, you want to branch out and you can do some different things. We have the vehicle aspect. People are you putting cars into your id games, and you're wrecking the id spirit. It is very difficult to, you know, appeal to your hardcore base, and you know, do something new while the industry and the fans are evolving and changing.
Drew, I know that I spoke with you about Resistance many times. Obviously, at the time that Resistance came out, the initial launching of an IP that is in a flooded first-person market, it's like, how is this distinguished from everything else? And you guys have a few kind of pillars for the franchise that you guys look to with the story, and then also the trademark Insomniac weapons and things like that. Talk a little bit about the development of that franchise and a little bit how you've evolved it to continue to remain unique.
I think we went with this alternate history theme that has enough familiarity that I think people can get into it quickly, but then has enough differences to stand out with our aliens, with the weapons, which Insomniac is known for from Ratchet and Clank, and then obviously in the Resistance franchise. I think with 3, we wanted to tell a more personal story. I think part of that was just a desire for us to be showing more of, you know, the game's called Resistance, and the first 2 games were pretty military based, and you'd show up in these cities that had been overrun, and I guess whenever I personally think of like the French Resistance, I don't think of the military or like the action, although of course we do have a lot. I think about like I think about being scared. I think about, you know, dark places and hiding out and whispering and being nervous and really being part of this almost the citizens army that is that's facing overwhelming odds and that you're not really ready for. And so I think we wanted to tell a more personal story in 3, and I've mentioned this in a couple interviews, but I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of us on the team, me, Marcus Smith, our creative director, Grant Hollis, our director, a lot of us had kids during production, and I think a lot of us, we were reading, a bunch of us reading The Road at the beginning of the game, and all of us were kind of thinking like, what would it be like if this happened and you had your wife and a kid, and wanted to tell a more personal story, because I think there are a lot of games, you know, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Battlefield, those guys do military really well, and I think we wanted to do something different that told a more personal story.
Mackie, obviously you guys are, like we mentioned, in a unique position here, launching a new IP that nobody in this room is really familiar with. Hopefully not, anyway.
A few of them, there's some coworkers.
Okay, great. So you guys know. But in terms of this IP, talk a little bit about now. Obviously, there's some expectations. There's pressure. I mean, people don't quite know what to expect. Yet at the same time, how do you know this is the right direction? I mean, to me, to think about the fact that you guys coming, of course, off the story that you are and forming something here and having a blank canvas in front of you, how do you look and say, okay, this is it. This is what we're doing.
Well, we're definitely in a very unique situation where we can't really say anything specific because our game is not even announced. But when we started out, we wanted to start with a really clean slate, so we sat in a big room in a big circle, and each person talked about their most favorite games and also their biggest disappointments. And we used that process to sort of build a company game outlook. Like, what is it that we are striving for, and what are some cases where a game appealed to us in a certain way, but then didn't pay off, so maybe we could pay that off in the future. And we found some really good stuff there. And then I'll also say that the way we know if it's going to be a success, I guess, or not, is really just, are we really excited about the game, and are we just dying to play it? So once we get the ideas there, which are there, then it's all about the hard work of building it so that we can have the game to play.
In the initial states of developing these IPs, guys, are there ever moments, or have there been moments where you've gotten pretty deep and then you just scrap it? I mean, I'm trying to imagine, you know.
Yeah, we worked on a game for over a year and we scrapped the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I mean, it was going to be a cool game, we just hit a point where, you know, it's not working. But luckily for us, you know, we were small enough. You know, John is flexible enough, and it takes, you know, it takes balls to throw a year away and start something completely different. And you just have to follow your heart.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Resistance started as a time-traveling, high science fiction game and ran that way for 6 to 9 months, I think. It was before I got there, but I've seen some of the art and cinematics and our little animatics that were put together. They definitely went down that road for a while and then made a hard left or right turn or some kind of flew up in the air, I don't know, and ended up with the Resistance that we know.
Well, thinking of examples, I mean, I feel like some of the best games out there went through that process. Like Half-Life 1, they were down to a year left and they said it's not working, so let's scrap it and take the best of what we've done, figure out how to make a whole game around that. And projects I've worked on have gone through similar processes that I won't be too specific about.
Before the game you can't talk about, there were games you can't talk about.
That's yes.
What about with Dishonored? Were there points throughout the early development where, I mean, you guys spoke a little bit about the development yesterday, but was it a completely different concept than what we've been introduced to here at QuakeCon?
Not really. In terms of the high-level concept, it's still quite the same as we wanted to do at the beginning. I think it's more like some features got dropped because they were seem to be good on paper. I think there's some kind of legend with design that some people think that if you design a feature very deeply on paper, then it's all good, you can do it and it will be good. When in fact, very often when you start on a feature that seems to be cool on paper, then you do it and you feel like, my god, this is pure shit. And in this case, sometimes it's really better to just throw that away and just give it up, even if it's a full game actually, and if you have the money to be able to do that, because in the end, if you do something and it's crappy and you release it, that's going to actually damage the name of your company and it's not going to do any good. So it's better to just realize that something is bad, even if you really attach to the idea. Just drop it and do something else.
I got a little question for Daniel. You worked on BYOC, which was one of those games that went through a long sort of finding itself, and then actually ended up working out really well, which usually if it goes that long, isn't necessarily the case. But did you have a similar process on this game, or was it more like you guys had the vision at the beginning?
So on BioShock, actually, didn't work on the first one, and on the second one, didn't work a lot on it actually. It's more that Arcane did some work on some of the level of BioShock, so I wasn't really involved apart from some producing stuff, so I'm not sure I can't really have something.
But did the game you're working on now, did it have a clear vision from the beginning, or was that a process of finding it over the course of the game?
I think we had a clear vision that we wanted to make a game about assassination and that we wanted some core values like the game we really like Deus Ex or Thief, all the experience plays. But there's a lot of stuff that have been refined on the way by just iterating again and again and again on the feature, just to try to find a good balance between all the elements we have in the game, like between the combat and the stealth, all those the stealth play for the player when you can also just use this sword and kill everybody. So it's more like we had the high-level direction and then more refining how display reading the game, like the minute-to-minute gameplay.
Okay. Yes, iteration is key. Definitely. In every, to his point, you need to iterate. And if the schedule doesn't allow for it, you do it anyways, because that is key.
You know, guys, thankfully we've been speaking mostly from a creative standpoint here on everything involved in this process, which I think everybody in this room, this medium, is near and dear as you know, the ultimate expression and, you know, the merging of creativity and technology. But this is a business too. I know that you guys have a balancing act, and that was kind of my next talking point, was talking about coming up with these wonderful creative visions, but then making sure that they're going to sell. And in this day and age, you know, we're seeing a lot of casual consumers that are impacting the markets a lot, that might pick up a game and they really enjoy it for a few months, or they enjoy it for the multiplayer components and might not even play the single player story. Where do you find the biggest challenge in walking that tightrope and making sure that your game's accessible to newcomers, but at the same time appealing enough to offer the hardcore gamers, like the ones here, I'm sure, an opportunity to feel a unique experience like we talked about building?
So I have a theory on that. I don't know if it's true or not, time will tell. But I always think that some people mismatch the accessibility and the depth of a game. Like, I think if you have a good accessibility to a game and you get the player to learn how to play your game and you try to stick to some good practice, like in terms of control, sticking to standard that other games did, I think you can even provide a very deep experience and some very interesting mechanics to even to players that are not like very hardcore gamers. So I think it's a lot about making sure that your game offers itself to the player in a good way so that he can learn how to play it, and then you can really have him to learn to do very complex things in your game if you do it the right way, sorry, and with the right pace and everything.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about specifically in Dishonored, there's the option to kind of search out how, if you want to advance your character's abilities, to increase his weapons and also his skill set. Those things are there, so it's kind of one of those things that it becomes as deep as you want to make it, but there is a surface level that you can kind of just go through, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You know, obviously, Maggie, with your new IP, you know, Call of Duty is probably one of the most accessible, if not the most accessible franchise out there because of its cross-platform nature, and then everyone knows it. In terms of making a game that is identifiable to the hardcore but also accessible, what are your thoughts?
I think, in some ways I tend to identify personally with the Blizzard mantra on that, where you want to make a game that you have to treat everybody as your potential audience rather than just really zoning in on one specific group of people, but you still need to have enough depth to appeal to all those players. And specifically to your earlier point was that do these games even really need a single player anymore? And I don't know, looking at the games that have been successful, it feels to me like single player is a great entry point for the average person to get into a game, so they're not afraid of what's going to happen to them when they play multiplayer.
When you say successful, you mean financially successful, or what do you mean successful?
Lots of people playing it.
Lots of people playing. Okay.
Like, I mean, there's plenty of, I don't know, in the biggest cases, you know, single player tends to be the leader that gets people into it. It's just that games that only have a strong single player get a little bit economically run into headwinds, because then they become a very popular rental game.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, I mean, in terms of what I'd like to play, I don't mind just playing just a single player or just a multiplayer, but that's because I'm essentially a super advanced gamer compared to the average person out there.
Yeah, I'm just real curious, actually.
Maybe not compared to everybody
Like a
here,
robot.
but I'm like a Terminator of gaming compared to the average person.
How many people in here buy their games for single player stories mostly?
That's huge, and this is like a multiplayer. And
you all should pre-order Rage. Thank you.
Yeah, as I walk around the convention floor, it's a little weird to me, having come to QuakeCon since the first one through 11 years or so, to see like how many people are just there playing single player or co-op games with their friends. You know, they drag their computer all the way in here so they can play Rock Band or something.
Yeah.
That's cool, or Minecraft.
Yeah. But that's what I'm getting at, though. The industry's gotten so big, is this market segment, this is us, this is who we are, but are we big enough? I mean, when the bar has been raised so high by other IPs that sell to, the casual audience, and you have, 3/4 or a half of the audience or whatever, maybe less, I don't know, but a substantial amount of the audience being the casual gamer, that's what I'm talking about. When does the design philosophy have to shift to say, we're not keeping pace with the most successful games?
Yeah, it is definitely a tricky balance. You know, for us, we have, you know, the greatest fans in the world, but they're very hardcore. And, you know, you get a game like Call of Duty that sells 25 zillion copies. You know, that is, you want some of those people to say, that game was fun. What else is out there? Oh, I want to play this. And you're right, it is tricky. You know, for us, heck, the first 2 hours of Rage is actually just a long tutorial. And that was, you know, something that we needed. But education, you know, not intimidating casual gamers, that's very important. Because a lot of people, you know, especially with our game now, they're a little intimidated until, you know, people play and they're like, okay, yeah, I can get into it. But it is a balancing act is tricky.
I think, like Tim said, the training is really important. We started doing some formal usability tests after Resistance 2 came out on Resistance 2, and basically found that, you know, we've got both the primary fire and alt fire on every gun, and just that confused a lot of people, and there was a pretty clear divide between people who really liked the game and people who were like, yeah, it's okay, and it's whether or not they understood the weapons. And we spent a lot of time like doing training and redoing training just to get people to make sure people understood the weapons in Resistance 3. And I think that's a big step is having depth, having things that the hardcore people can get into, but, you know, giving that assistance to more casual players to get into it.
Is this where we're at, though, with the industry, though? Because you mentioned you spent a lot of time having to reiterate on that process to make sure that the casual gamer is able to play it and enjoy it. And, you know, hardcore gamers would say, well, that's time that could be spent on developing more hardcore aspects of the game, finer tuning stuff. But, I mean, this is just where our industry is at, correct?
I think it's where the industry's at, but it's also, I think the hardcore players should want the casual players to play to a certain extent. I mean, games are so expensive, you need casual players playing your game,
right?
Probably, just to be financially viable. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. A lot of the, you know, I talk a lot about on my show that at least one person watches. We kind of represent that side, you know, that gaming, like, you know, what's happening to the industry, you know, and it's true. Things are evolving. You know, better, worse, I don't know, but things are evolving. I think reaching that casual consumer, it does make things more fun when there's a larger scale to the audience, and also the audience is feeding the company, and the company is able to continue to produce on those IPs that we love. Did you have anything that you wanted to say on that front? Well, you know, one aspect of that, one aspect of bringing the casual and the hardcore in is, we touched on just a little bit, was the multiplayer aspect, which is huge in first-person shooters. I think if you look, you know, at the early days of the genre to where we are now, it's a huge difference, and predominantly the success of games is based on their multiplayer components. How do you guys feel about single-player stories? Everyone here has mentioned the story in their games, and that was like the first thing you guys mentioned, so it's important. But in terms of how much importance it has compared to the multiplayer, where do you guys stand?
I'm going to take the question.
Yes, for us, you know, not having classic, you know, on-foot deathmatch that, you know, it invented in Rage, has had people be like, what the hell are you guys doing? You guys are going crazy. But actually, every game that I've worked on, people have told us that we're crazy halfway through. And I would be very sad if I was ever working on a game and someone did say, that's crazy. I mean, again, you need that, like you said, you need a single-player game. I mean, Doom originally was a single-player game. And because like, you know, the guys have said, pulls people into the experience. You know, but we also can't get so, you know, fixated on multiplayer, and because people still enjoy the interactive experience, the immersion, you know, in this world. You know, so I mean, for us, you know, our new game is very heavy on a single player. I mean, we have a multiplayer component which is fun, but it's much different than what we've done in the past, and we wanted that to stand apart from our other titles. Yeah, it is definitely, like I said before, a fine line that we all walk.
Yeah. True?
Yeah, I think, and I'll say, like, I probably play more single-player games than multiplayer personally, and I think it was a little bit of a switch for Insomniac with going from Ratchet and Spyro before that, which were just single-player games, to Resistance, and I think with each game we spend more and more resources on multiplayer. I think it's just a way to keep. I think that's a good way to capture the hardcore, actually, because even people who really like single player or like playing through a story on co-op, I think, I know that there are people out there who play through our Resistance, 5, 10 times, but I think most people who are going to keep playing a game are going to be doing that in multiplayer, and who want that experience to continue. And from a purely mercenary standpoint, I think you need something that continues that experience, because if you have a game that's just a 5-hour single player, people are going to rent it. They're going to buy it and take it back to GameStop after the weekend, and that hurts. I mean, I don't think that's really financially viable.
Yeah, that's not good for the industry at all.
Yeah, that's made things pretty tough. I mean, it seems like in this console generation especially, it's become sort of a winner-takes-all, where more and more players see what their friends are playing on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, and then they jump in with their friends and then tell their friends to buy that game, and everybody buys that game because that's the one they know that their friends are going to be playing. But I'm kind of surprised that I feel like the poor, unsupported, unspoken of co-op is a little missing from the discussion, because it's more and more games are pushing that frontier, and that's a new and interesting way to do storytelling, especially like Gears, where you're both playing, one of the characters in the story.
I think Borderlands.
Or Portal, even Portal 2. Co-op was a really new and interesting way to play through it. Now, does that get you away from rentals? I don't know. I think really multiplayer is the only one, or massively multiplayer, is the only way to get away from that. It's hard to say that it's single player or multiplayer. More important, they both, they both end up with people working on both of them. Right. They're going to be in the game, so.
Yeah, I think the multiplayer indeed in some kind of strange position, because sometimes it's used as a tool, as one saying, to fight against rentals and piracy. But I think at the end of the day, you also have to ask yourself, where does the multiplayer fit in my project? Is it going to bring anything to what I want to achieve with this game? And also, is working on this multiplayer actually going to make the single player worse, because you won't have the same time to work on it, you won't have the same focus, you won't have the same money to work on the single player, because obviously if you make a multiplayer, you have to do it, so you need to invest some time on it and everything. So I think it's just also a question of asking what you want to do in the end. Do you want to achieve a great single player game? Do you want to achieve a great multiplayer game? Do you want to do both? And if you want to do both, do you have the focus and the time and the means to do it?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that all day, because there's obviously, we've seen some really good success stories with downloadable only online shooters, that's all they do. I mean, very little story. I mean, Section 8 Prejudice has been out for a while. It has a single player component, but it's a downloadable game. It's focused on, multiplayer, and it must be very interesting for you guys, with all the options and all the things that are out there, how to prioritize, what you have in front of you and make something unique. But it brings us to our next topic, which is about the genre itself. We're living in a really interesting age with new types of control inputs and everything else in terms of how we interact with interactive entertainment. What do you think are going to be the things that truly evolve the first-person shooter genre? Because, I mean, it stayed relatively the same. I mean, obviously, once we went online, I'll never forget, playing the original Tribes online or Unreal Tournament. It was just amazing. But beyond that, where are we going with this in terms of first-person shooter? What's the next big thing? Anybody?
Co-op.
Co-op?
I think it's co-op. Yeah. I think I know. I personally like playing Gears. I spent way more time playing Horde mode than I did multiplayer. Games like Borderlands. I think. Personally, I think just going home, like, I don't always want the stress of having to like compete with people to play with friends and socialize. Sometimes I just want to go home and have a single player-ish experience, but still play with friends. And because I do think there's something really enjoyable about having that shared experience. And I think I know Mackie can't talk about Call of Duty, but I can. So I think that in Modern Warfare 2, I think the asymmetric special ops missions they had where one guy was in the helicopter and the other guy was on the ground. They had the other mission with the guy in the AC-130 and the other guy on the ground. I thought those were fascinating. I'm shocked that I haven't seen anything else like that since then. I've totally different experiences, really interesting dynamics between the power player in the air who can't actually win the mission and the guy on the ground who's way weaker, but he's the only one who can get over the finish line. And I would love to see stuff like that involves even more players or just takes that farther. I think that's a great direction I'd like to see shooters go.
You know, for me, because I get this question a lot, like, what's the future of first-person gaming?
Generic question, is that what you said, Tom?
No, it's not a generic question, but like, you know, especially popular press, they love that question. You know, it's a hardcore press. They're like, what's John doing? You know, for me, the social aspect of gaming is huge. I mean, look at QuakeCon. It's always been there, and you know, more and more people are online connected. I mean, heck, there are more people playing Farmville than Call of Duty, which is sad. But the thing is in the future, what would be awesome, and I don't know how we would do this, but you know, a game developer that creates a game but never actually finishes it, or it just sets the blocks in motion, and you have the single player experience, but things in your world affect, I mean, actions that you do in your world affect, you know, the world that your friends are in. And then together, you know, as everyone plays through it, the world changes, and then eventually, you know, the end is there, but it's based on the choices and the decisions and the actions that you know, everyone together has made independently. And
so a broader social type of component.
And then just tie that into the social aspect. I mean, I think that we'll find more and more people, you know, games cross different platforms, you know, from mobile to web-based. You know, you play something on your console, but it's connected to everything, and you get beat updates on your phone if somebody's found something in their game that affects your game. And I think that's a great direction that someone could take.
I couldn't agree more. People complain, anyone who knows me knows I'm a Mass Effect nut. And in Mass Effect 2, people complained a lot about the mining for that people enjoy the mining in Mass Effect 2, where you're mining for all the materials. No. I said that should be something that's an app on your phone that, you know, half these people would be doing right now while they're listening to the, you know.
I've never understood why you can't gather medals and WoW on your phone.
Yeah.
Like,
you know. So social and bringing things out. What about you in terms of the future, not only of this genre, the industry in general? Where are we heading?
Well, I think in console world, we've been on the same technology for like 5 years or so. So everything kind of becomes a search for what can you do with the existing technology. It's hard to guess what we're going to be able to do with future technology, since personally, at least I haven't seen it yet. But the Kinect, I was really excited about Kinect when I saw it at E3. I guess, was it 2 years ago before it came out, or a year ago? Anyway, and I think that controlling a game with the least amount of things required to learn is cool, but it's not quite there yet because it didn't ship with the original hardware. It didn't ship as a zero cost for the developer. With the Kinect right now, it uses up some of the memory and some of the CPU, so you would have to sort of develop 2 games if you were going to really try to take advantage of it. But it depends on how far forward you're looking, but I would say that there's going to come a time in the future when you're adjusting the volume of your TV with your fingers and doing iPod motions on things.
Yeah.
Your CPU will be so powerful it will understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So maybe you're not thinking that far, but that's what I'm looking forward to. You know,
Absolutely.
Maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe less.
I think when the genre first came out, we were all fascinated with just the visceral ability, you know, what happened on screen, shooting people and just seeing things, you know, how in-depth and immersive it was. And now you're talking more, you know, with your game, and we've seen games like BYOC and things that are much more story-driven. And is that where you see this genre specifically going, to be able to tell the stories that we expect out of other genres and have that level of maybe emotional depth to them? Or is it more of a technological barrier that we're facing?
I don't know if the full genre is going to go there because it's obviously a different experience, and I don't think one experience is better than the other. I mean, different players like to play different things, like if you take Call of Duty or BYOC or, I don't know, Thief or whatever. They are like very different games doing different things and doing very well. So I don't know if the genre is going to just lock into one precise style. I hope not, because otherwise it will be just kind of boring if you just have only one kind of first-person shooter. But if I had a wish for the future, at least I don't know exactly where the future is going, but if I had a wish, I wish that Microsoft and Sony could add a little bit memory in their console.
Yeah, memory. We always just say more memory.
Yeah, but it's just we are at the stage.
The Xbox almost shipped with 256, so.
Yeah.
How much do you want? How much do you want? What would be perfect for you? Like not crazy.
Maybe we can start with a gig at least.
A gig.
Yeah, that's what the dev kids have.
That gets you in trouble.
Yes.
Right.
Just it's getting to a point where it's kind of strange because the power of the console is very high, but you can't really use it as you want because just the memory is so low that you would like to make a world that is very lifelike, where you can interact with a lot of subjects and everything, and suddenly, oh, I don't have any more memory. And how can I only have 256 memory in 211? It's kind of strange.
So is there a consensus that that's probably the most limiting thing? Just not being able to, I mean, you've got the ideas here, it's just getting them out there. Is that what I'm hearing?
And time. Time is usually the real thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they can ship with more time.
More memory and more time. Do it, Microsoft. One thing Microsoft and Sony both are doing, and you touched on this, is the motion movement. This bullet point I have is called out of control. Yes. Because, you know, the simple fact is connect, move. Obviously the Wii, the motion movement has taken over the industry. And I've always really wondered specifically with the first-person shooter genre, you know, we're not seeing a ton of depth there with what you mentioned, kind of the Minority Report type of future. But in the immediate future, in the next 5 years, maybe 5-10 years, is motion controls, is this really what you guys see specifically the first-person shooter genre as being something to complement the experience? Is it going to replace the control pad and the mouse and keyboard?
Well, we had, you know, the kill zone gun, you know, and so you fire up kill zone, you get the gun, and you're like, yeah, this is cool. And then in about 15 minutes, you're like, oh, my arms are so tired. So then you take all the stuff out of the gun, and then you sit back, and you're like, yeah, this is not so bad. You know, so there is, when you talk about it, it's like, oh, it's awesome, you get up, you go this, but the problem is it gets too damn tiring.
Tim's just old.
Yes.
I agree. Tim didn't mention that Resistance 3 is being bundled with the Sharpshooter. He's already pre-ordered his copy. I think there are people who really like playing that way. I personally, I like the controller. I like sitting there with the controller, and that's the way I like playing it. But there are a lot of hardcore fans who really like playing with the Move controller, the Sharpshooter, and I think it would be silly of us not to try to, like, you know, not to let people play the game the game the way they want to play it.
Yeah.
Where it's going to go in the future, I don't know. You know, David Jaffe always says, you know, I want to work on the holodeck, and I was you know, you emailed this question out, and I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't know if I want to be the holodeck. It seems like a lot of energy. Like, you know, I like relaxing playing games. I don't, you know.
Well, it depends. If you're
I
playing
could join the
game.
army if I wanted to. To be honest.
You could. But if you're there for the story, a thing that we've all spoken about, I mean, there's you know, I don't get up and dance around when I'm watching a movie with a great story, sometimes. But, you know, so it depends on what you're coming to the experience for, I guess, right? What about motion controls? You kind of already touched on it.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's important to pay attention to the fact that, like, little kids today, they get their parents' hand-me-down iPad or something, or their little DS, and they're learning how to play games with, like, their fingers or a pen, and it's like a new generation that's not even that a controller is foreign to them, and having to deal with buttons and joysticks and things. So again, I'm probably jumping ahead like 20 years, but I think that those expectations are really going to change the way people are making games. In the same way that I don't know, like 10 years ago, all the first-person shooters it was taken for granted that you're playing with a mouse and a keyboard, and nobody could ever really make a good gamepad. I mean, maybe you started playing Doom with your little ASCII pad or something, but once you started playing with a mouse and keyboard, that was all you used. But then along came Halo, and then along came dual motion, dual analog, and now there's way more people playing with gamepads than there are with mouse, so it could definitely happen.
What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of share this out, like 10 years ago, a lot of people were saying you cannot play FPS with a pad, and here we go today, most of the sales for first-person shooters are on console with a pad. So it's hard to say because like, I think we are just at the start of the motion controls, and there'll probably be a lot of tests and experience in games that are going to change the way we play. That's probably a long time in the future.
The consensus I hear from a lot of people, my thought on specifically like with Kinect is, making it a complementary type of experience, not the full, not the whole deal, so that if you are issuing a command or doing something, that it's kind of aware of that experience and it augments it enough to make it immersive, increase the level of immersion in a field. I think that that's what some people are hoping for, right?
Yeah, they need Couch Connect.
Couch Connect.
Because standing up, yeah. Yes, I want to sit on my couch. Can you just like figure out where my couch is? And I'm still waiting for John Carver to do direct to brain. Just plug that thing in and then sit down.
Yeah. Well, but with the companies, Microsoft and Sony pushing these, and like you said, it's a really good point with the next generation not being familiar. My kids, Angry Birds and the Wii for the most part. So, when they turn 15, or whatever, and start getting out there, it's going to be totally different. Has the industry thought about that, or is it something that's just going to happen organically, you guys think?
I think it'll happen somewhat organically. I think, we were talking about this thing, and I was thinking about at GDC last year, Valve was doing a thing on user testing, and one of the things they did was they do a lot of eye tracking to see where people are looking, and then at some point they actually hooked it up where they disengaged the reticle from the controller, and the reticle would follow your eye around. So you were moving and everything with the controller, but the reticle was your eye. And I didn't get to play it, it was just a video, but it looked really cool. And it's like that's an interesting, that's something that could definitely, they could make a device that does that right now. And something I never would have thought of.
It's not the iPad. Sorry, I had to.
So yeah, I think it's just gonna evolve. But some of it, I do think like the Minority Report, and you see that how people will play Warcraft and things that way. It's hard to think about how that's going to exactly translate with shooters, where so much of it is about at least right now Twitch skills and how that is it just on an iPad, is it just being able to tap the fastest? I don't know.
There's an opportunity though for somebody to do something innovative and to say that this is, because I think the light bulb hasn't gone off yet. Like, how does this actually make things more awesome? So there's an opportunity, right, for when maybe somebody can figure it out. We're going to take some questions from the audience. We do not have a mic, so you have to be loud. But we have a few moments to take some questions, so if you have one, raise your hand.
Well, first off, with motion controls, you guys didn't think about like hand signals for military shooters and things like that, and actually making it so the model does that. That'd be really cool. But anyway, your stories have become a lot more cinematic to the point where the first-person actor is actually doing things. I mean, Battlefield 3, when you do melee, your guy's actually grabbing the guy and stabbing him, and all sorts of things about, you can see your guy's legs, your guy's arms, and stuff like that. And movies are actually starting to do this too, with the Dune movie, obviously, but then I just saw a trailer to Spider-Man, and there's a whole section where there's first person in that. Do you guys see the possibility of more movies that are actually all in first person? And if you guys think that genre is blending enough to the point where the audience could probably make a large game where everyone's at their home computers being a part of this cinematic experience.
If I had to boil that down to how our games and movies cinematically affecting each other, I feel like I went to Battlefield LA and Cowboys and Aliens and something else. It just seems like this is video game after video game in some sort of weird movie format. So there's definitely like a feedback loop starting to happen between game makers and movie makers. A lot of them are in LA, so that might have something to do with it.
I thought Cloverfield was totally based on games. I mean,
His
I
name
thought
was
that was a
HUD.
pretty, it was, yeah, it was
His
a
name
pretty,
was HUD.
yeah, it was a pretty first-person game. At one point, he figures out the light. It's like he got the power up, and he's got the flashlight all of a sudden. And yeah, and I came out of it thinking, yeah, that J.J. clearly plays a lot of video games. As far as the second part of your question, I honestly don't know. Sounds like a cool idea.
Sam, anything on the cinematic front?
No, that was good. What those guys said.
Well, I think that's one thing that the gaming industry has always struggled with, kind of maybe being the little brother to the film industry, always trying to live up to, you know, that, hey, we're here too type of thing. But I think that that's gone, you know? I mean, nowadays, like you mentioned, in Hollywood, ripping off so many of the things from the gaming industry, right? Is that sensation there at all for you guys to try to make your experiences on par with Hollywood? Does that ever enter your mind, or you just...
Well, I mean, you know what's funny is, so we have a number of voice actors in Rage, and they were some of the actors that came in, and yeah, we have John Goodman, but you know, most of the other actors are pretty, you know, normal. But they were more proud of the fact that, hey, one guy came in and says, "I'm Kane from Diablo," you know, and we had Drake from Uncharted, and he's, "I'm Drake," and it's just like, well, no, you were in that TV show I saw. So yes, I do think that video games are definitely, I mean, right up there with, you know, I mean, mainstream, popular, same level of respect, and that feedback loop, you'll see more and more and more of it, which I think is really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Question?
So you call a little bit on the first-person body, you know, seeing your guy do stuff. One of the biggest limitations for the first-person perspective versus like third-person games has been that they don't give the player the sense of proprioception, like a body sense. How do you see actually like moving forward? Is there any ways you guys could see in helping the first-person games like develop that sense?
Well,
a bit more so the player knows kind of.
One of
get
the-
a little bit more perception about where he
is.
in the world.
Yeah, I mean, and we've always been, like every game that we worked on, we have no feet. But at some point in the game, we have feet, because there's always some new guy that says, "You guys never had feet." And I say, "Yeah, it doesn't work." And they're like, "Oh, we should try it. You know," and it's just not gonna work. So we put feet in, and then it doesn't work. Because you know, you're really kind of a big, well, right now you're a bunch of circles, but you're usually just a square. The biggest issue that a lot of people don't realize in first-person shooters is your field of view in real world goes from here to here. And, you know, now we're down to, you know, 90, 110, sometimes 80.
You try to do 130 FOV.
Yeah, you'll make people throw up. And so that, I mean, that right there alone is such a significant hurdle to get over that. I mean, long ago I made a box as a joke, and I didn't make a box, I had a box, and I cut a square and I stuck it on my head, and I walked around the office and I was like, yeah, this is what it looks like playing Doom. And I use it for like a training tool.
Sounds like a pre-order bonus to me.
But the big problem is that FOB is a huge hurdle to get over.
It's funny you would mention the box. One of our animators uses that because he does all of our first-person stuff, and so he'll put it on when he's in our Movin suit, so he knows that it's in his field of view. So he's actually trying to get me to bring it with me, and bring it where it's at. I had my daughter. I couldn't carry that and her. So.
That is totally normal.
One of the things in first-person shooters and multiplayer, it's like I would want the player to be able to see their own shadow, because if the game has dynamic shadows, there's times where you cast a shadow, and if you can't see it, you don't know you're giving your position away. But an experience some people have had in feedback is that if they can see they see their shadow, and then they turn around and go, "Who's there?" Because they don't really think it's them, and their own shadow doesn't feel like their shadow in reality. So it's like somebody's creeping up on them all the time.
What about you?
Well, I think what we call the body awareness, so feeling your body. There are few games that started to try some things like Far Cry 2 or even actually Dark Messiah that we worked on. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement there, and it's true that when you really feel like you're in the body and the physicality of your movement and everything, it really kind of improves the immersion in the game, so I definitely think that's something that first-person shooters should push toward too.
On a similar topic, with, for example, I can be the 3 panels and however many panels you want, would that help combat your situation? Because I've noticed now, sure, you have your front panel, but a lot of the side panels are super stretched out. But if you keep your focus in the center, it's kind of like what I'm seeing right now. Does that combat anything at all?
Well, it's kind of like HDTV. It took a while before people started really converting to HDTV, and it's going to be a lot longer before they convert to Infinity.
Yeah.
So it would be hard to really make that a driving part of your game, I think.
That brings up a good point. Actually, I'll get to your question next real fast. I just want something I didn't talk to you guys about with first-person shooters. Just a quick, because we're running out of time. I want to get a couple more questions. But in terms of 3D,
Yes.
where do we stand? Is this the future? I mean, they got 3D phones, 3D everything, and it's a big push from everybody, obviously. Is it going to make a difference in the way we play games?
How many people actually play first-person shooters 3D here? That's your answer.
What do you guys think? Same thing. So, but yeah, so there's nothing you guys see as being extremely valid in what 3D brings to the table to augment the design process, to change the way that you could think about playing a game and being immersive on a different level, or it just pops out. It's cool, but it's not going to change the way we play.
I mean, it does make it a little more immersive, but I find now that it's really become more of a popular thing in movies, because not as much in games yet, because the hardware is still locked in 2005 or whatever. But sometimes, I don't know, I'm watching a 3D movie and I still just want to take the glasses off, and then the screen's brighter, and if it's not too 3D, I can see it fine, and I don't have to wear the glasses.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it doesn't make it more interesting and like you're there, but
Right.
I don't think it's strictly necessary.
I think we got the consensus on that. Question?
I was actually wondering, how well does it work whenever you're pulling the trigger? Like, does the Kinect actually notice that you have little fingers? Like, I don't know how well it actually tracks that.
I think the Kinect probably gives you mitts at this point, but computers are only getting more powerful, despite our best.
Was there, on the move stuff, is there, I know that you have.
You got triggers on
got a
the
lot of
move,
buttons.
yeah, and then the sharpshooter has a trigger. I haven't played with Kinect. So.
And the other thing is that I play BYOC with a mind controller, and that's super sick, so I hope that you will get into
Mind
it.
control?
Yeah, there's an emotive mind controller. I'm actually personally developing a game for that too, so I hope that everybody, gets on the mind controllers.
Did it help you kill the Big Daddy?
Using the powers of the mind controller is so sick, and it actually has a gyroscope
But
on
the
your head.
Big Daddy's
so
pretty
you-
tough.
You what?
But he's pretty tough.
Yeah,
He'll like push you like a long way, no matter how much you're like, no.
You have to actually hold the thought too, so it's like you're
Whoa.
actually moving out your hand, you're like, ah.
And then you're getting hungry, and there's like a stink of marshmallow man.
Do you have a question over there?
Yeah. This is kind of like a listed question to ask, but like, when you ask all those questions like, where is the industry going, what do you guys see in FPS and stuff, I wanted you to kind of phrase the question like, where do you see your games rewarding players from now and then in the future? Because what I noticed from all of these awesome developers and from the games that came out, from BioShock to Call of Duty to Borderlands, like mentioned, was that they found new ways to reward players for their time and money. Call of Duty did it with the levels, as you play multiplayer, you level up. And then even when you get to the end, you prestige, and then you go back and you play, you still say, I'm prestige 5, I'm still there with you. And then Borderlands had all that loot, and then BioShock had story, which was that reward pillar. So I see Rage as when I played on the 4, I saw it incorporate a lot of this stuff. I felt really rewarded when I played it. But in terms of the future, what kind of rewards do you guys see that you guys added into your game to make the players feel like, all right, this is awesome, I paid $60 or 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks. I see that reward, I get it. Like, I think that's where the industry will go, right? Where you guys will say, how do I find that new reward to reward you for that 5 minutes you just started jumping in, or the 10 minutes, or the 20 minutes you played in my game? Do you think that's the way that you guys will go? Like, how do I find new rewards for the player?
If I made a game and you beat the game and you got a hot girlfriend, I'd be rich. I had to say something funny.
It'd be a one-word title if it was from me, so I want to know what that is. What do you guys think? I mean, are there different ways? I mean, obviously we've seen, you know, the achievement system and the trophy system in recent years kind of making those little checkpoints to keep you involved and engaged and feel like you're actually being rewarded with something, but is there something more tangible in the experience like he's talking about that could come out of it?
More tangible? You mean like send a proof of purchase in, or?
I don't know. Well, I mean, like
Like in Diablo being able to sell your loot for real money on an auction house?
Well,
tangible.
that's Diablo 3, right? They're going to do that. So is this a trend we're going to see? Like he's talking about having, I think what he's saying is it's so competitive, the landscape is so competitive, you're investing yourself. I mean, for me, you're getting the experience out. That's what you're getting. That is the reward. And you know, if the experience is memorable and thought-provoking and engaging, something that you take with you that impacts you as a person, then that's awesome. But I don't know, is there more that can be given or should be? Does it even need to be considered?
I think some of what you're talking about was just like new ways of rewarding the player, like the achievement system is obviously like a
Or like, you know, Battlefield,
collection showing off.
doing that whole Battlefield log, and Call of Duty's doing the Call of Duty Alpha, that whole like kind of site where you kind of present, they reward you for playing. You know, they reward you saying, you played these games, you did this stuff, here it is, you're awesome. You know, like that, some people might like it, some people might not, and I was just wondering if that's kind of like this whole, and you also talked about integrating the social. So I was wondering if this is like the whole next step, if that's one type of reward, a social reward, then, you know, what kind of aspects are you guys looking into rewarding players and stuff like that?
All of those. I think, yeah, I think different people play games for different reasons. I think, you know, you do have people who get in and want that sort of peggle factor of, yeah, I'm getting some, like Borderlands. You get a new gun to check out every 45 seconds or minute in that game. Sort of the Diablo feel. I think there are people who like showing off, and you've got like the high-end WoW people who, you know, just like to stand around in the cities and show off like their cool equipment. I think you've got people who are into story and just like don't care about any sort of external reward and just want to see the world that's presented to them. I think, you know, I think it's figuring out what different people like and trying to appeal to all those different segments and then figuring out new.
He has an announcement, apparently.
Or something there. And then just starting to use new media, things like Facebook and Twitter and letting people compare their stats. I think the achievements with this generation was a great thing with the achievements and trophies and yeah. Kind of just trail off there and just with all of that.
I'll only say that I feel like you're not going to put Pandora back in the box. Anyway, and I think it's just going to become, you know, you're going to see more of that rather than less, because it makes it easier for a lot more people to enjoy the game when there's more things they can achieve in it.
So are achievements enough, or we need more?
Well, I would speak as a player. To me, I prefer when the reward is experience-centric than abstract, like achievements, but that's just my point of view. I mean, I prefer when the game rewards me because I thought about doing something in the game, and yes, I can actually do it, and then I feel rewarded for being smart, like actually the game reacts to what I can do, and I can actually do something. So, to me as a player, I prefer the reward of the game saying yes to the player, I can do that.
Well, guys, look, we appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for your questions. It's time to wrap this up. So, Drew, Julie, and Mackie, Tim, appreciate it very much. And obviously, thanks for your questions and for participating at first-person perspectives. And enjoy the rest of QuakeCon.